Hi guys, welcome you in the morning, and thanks for coming for this presentation. My name is Jacob, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Estimote, and today we have this is a track of desire. So I hope I will share with you some thoughts about a little bit about the future of contextual computing. So Paul Graham of Y Combinator the other day, I don't see my presentation, so can we somehow turn it on, or? I will do it, no worry. You just need to select the right source, I think. Good, thank you. Paul Graham of Y Combinator the other day, he said that if you would like to build a great startup or a great company, you just need to time travel to the future and live there for a while. Just get used to all the innovations and frictionless technologies, and then back to the present and just build what you're missing the most, something that you can't live without. So today I will tell you a little bit more about what we are missing the most at Estimote and why we are doing that. So most of you know that we have World Cup, right? So yesterday Brazil scored a game. So I have prepared a short video that is related not only to the World Cup, but also to the subject of my today presentation. So most of you know the guy, he's called Cristiano Ronaldo, he's a great soccer player. And scientists have been trying to understand what makes this human being such a great player, why he is so fast, why he takes the right decision, and why he can win one-on-one games with other players. So what they did, they gave him eye tracker glasses, and they studied the movement of his eyes just to more or less understand what he is trying to look at and what's the decision process behind the vision. So here is a short video. So he will be playing one-on-one game, and again you see the eyes being tracked, and the kind of red dot is showing its kind of calculation of the location when he is concentrated his focus. So this is like an artificial stadium, whatever, and you see he's doing his tricks. So he's playing against the player, and they just recorded what just happened. They just recorded and tried to analyze where he looked at. So you will see that in a moment. And obviously, most of his attention was focused on the ball. That's kind of obvious. So you see, he's trying to analyze the ground. He's watching where's the ball. He's also, you will see that in a moment, he's also trying to understand the distance to the player. And in a moment you will see that he's also doing an analysis of the body of the player. So he's watching his legs just to understand what is the next move of the player. And he is, technically speaking, scanning this physical object, the player, and he's scanning like 30 times a second different positions of the object just to understand the context, the position, and make better decisions. So this is like one experiment about the context, and I have also another video which is extremely interesting because this time it's not a Cristiano Ronaldo, it's a girl. It's a small girl. So it's the same experiment. So you can see there are different objects, and the girl, using her eyes, she's just jumping between the objects. She's trying to identify who is the person, what is the object, which object, she's trying to classify the objects. And when she selects the object, she will pick up like a toy, and then she will focus on that toy. You will see that in a moment. Again, so she decided to take that particular toy. She's going to pick it up. And now she's been focusing on that toy, so she's not scanning for other objects anymore. She's concentrated on one particular object. So she, understands the distance of that object. That's why she's able to concentrate. So that's fascinating to watch, kids, how they interact with the physical world. And I also have my own kids. I have twin boys, and I perform a lot of experiments. So it's, if you have twins, you can A/B test different things. So there is a nice experiment I encourage you to perform at home. So basically, find a place that you feel safe, something like an open space, and try to walk. And during your walk, close your eyes and keep walking, and you will very quickly understand that you are not able to walk more than approximately 8 to 10 seconds, approximately 25 steps, with closed eyes. Basically, your body, your human brain, will prevent you doing that. There is built-in mechanism into the body that, because of the lack of location and context, it's basically stopping the procedure of walk. We don't know exactly why it is so, but it is a proof that human beings, we just need an external context in order to locate our position, in order to know where we are. Try it at home. It's really funny. So why I'm telling you about that? Why I'm telling you about the context and eyes is because phones you now have in your pockets, they are constantly blind, right? They're constantly blind. They have no idea where you are. They have no idea what are the objects in front of you. They are not able to locate the distance. They don't know the context. They don't know if objects are moving or not. They are blind. So when you walk with your closed eyes, think about it. Your phone is blind as well. And there was a promise of like smartphones, which is of course not true. And the reason these phones are blind is because the limitation of the technologies. I will cover that in a moment. And again, human beings, people, in order to understand the position, location, and context, they use eyes. And they use reference objects like lighthouse, signs, colors, labels. This is how we navigate. This is how we are able to move and understand what are the objects in front of us. And people in the industry have been trying to introduce similar landmarks and labels as well. These were QR codes and NFC stickers and other technologies like Marcin and other iBeacon people been talking yesterday. And the challenge was that it never worked. It never worked. Nobody was using that because it was too much friction. And there is a really interesting blog. It's a Tumblr blog. I am subscribed to it. It's really interesting. It says, the title is Pictures of People Scanning QR Codes. It's an interesting blog because there's no post. There are no pictures because no one have ever seen anyone scanning QR codes, right? Have you ever seen a person? So these are only geeks and nerds. And my mom and my sister, she's not able to do that. It's too much friction. It's too complex. So there is no question that object recognition and pattern recognition, and that there's no question that technology in the future will try to mimic what people used to do every day. So the technology of the future will use object recognition algorithms to understand the position and the context. There's no question about it because that's how we as human beings are working, and the technology will mimic that. But the challenge is these pattern recognition techniques, they are power consuming. They use a lot of energy. So like the Kinect, the glass, this is like Project Tango is the recent innovation from Google. So it's a smartphone that can analyze visual recognition, same thing as this 3-year-old girl did, but it can last 10 minutes on the battery, right? So the challenge is that these technologies, they will not be here anytime soon. They will be, but not anytime soon. So that's why we're trying to predict the future, but not the future in 10 years. We're trying to build the future that can be applied tomorrow, next month, and this year. So that's why at Estimote we have created beacons, and I will not cover how the beacons works exactly because that's been already covered in other sessions. But there is like complexity behind. So basically, each such a beacon, it's in fact is a tiny computer. There is a battery, and battery is turning the energy. The processor is taking the energy from the battery and turning it into the electromagnetic field that is being radiated over the wire through the air. And there's a distance method to locate. There's a way to locate the distance to the beacon, and the energy is being transmitted to the other phone, to the antenna, and then decoded into an information, and then there's a signal processing applied, filtering, and at the end of the day, phone does same thing as the little girl, which is able to understand what is the object in front of the phone, and also what's the distance, and the phone, same thing as little girl with eyes, can ask memory, ask cloud to take an action, right? So what I'm trying to say is that phones are blind, and this type of sensor technologies enable phones to see the world around. And beacons, as you know, they are designed to stick to locations, but they also can be stick to objects. So there's no reason that your dog or your car, your bike could also have a beacon and broadcast information about the location. So your phone in the background, in your pocket, can consume the information. So why we are doing that and why it is important. So today, if you go to IKEA, it's interesting experience because you get a wooden pencil and these funny Swedish names you need to write down and just find it in the maze and then just push towards the checkout. So it's like incredible experience, and this is definitely not the future of retail. So thanks to this technology, your phone have eyes. So the moment you walk into IKEA, it knows exactly you're at the entrance of IKEA. When you approach a chair, you just take a phone out of your pocket, unlock it, and then you immediately know what is the chair, what's the price, what's the model. You can add it to the cart. If you add that particular chair to the cart, you can walk to the other objects, and if you approach a pillow will tell you, hey, I'm perfect with that particular chair. You can add me to the cart as well. So you will add the pillow to the cart. You will hit the exit, and the beacon next to the exit will understand if this is an exit, will show your recipe, you will pay by credit card, and you are done. You can go buy a hot dog, right? That's the future, right? And this is just IKEA. And what about other locations like airports, public schools, transportation, hospitals? Dozens of physical objects and physical locations, people spend 80% of their time. One of our investors is Eric Schmidt's fund, and Eric Schmidt the other day said that computers, and these are computers, that computers will be always better than people in memory, calculations, performing boring boring tasks, but people will be always better than computers in the intuition, into emotions, into creativity. So whenever you try to build the future of applications, you basically need to understand that distinction, that you need to make the technology in your pocket do this stuff it's good at. So you as a human being in IKEA, you can just focus on the interior design, on the experience, on the emotions between you and your wife, trying to identify how your apartment should look like. You should forget about all the entire friction, which is like payment, navigation, invoices, location, and so on and so on. So a brilliant example of removing the friction is Uber, which is finally also coming to Europe. So for those of you who don't know exactly the details, it's just a cab, and you can call a cab using your app. Just you push one button, and then you walk inside. There's a great car, great experience. You just drive to your destination, and then you just leave the car, right? You don't have to pay by cash, credit card. Everything is done by the technology in the pocket, right? So you as a human being, you can just focus on the discussion with the driver or just enjoy the city, right? This is an amazing experience. Each time I'm in our office in New York or in California, I'm using Uber a lot because it's not only better experience, but it's also sometimes cheaper than a yellow cab. So I am so much attached to that experience that sometimes I take an ordinary yellow cab and then I forgot to pay because I'm so much attached to it. And the question is now how we can Uberize not only transportation, but how we can Uberize the shopping experience, how we can Uberize public transportation, airports, and all the points when we have huge friction. So at Estimote, we know that the technology can be applied to many different industries, but we're trying to understand how we can be concentrated, how we can be focused. And our initial focus is on retail, and we're also building a concept of something we call inventory-less showroom. So just think about it. What is the reason you go to the shopping mall and you buy stuff and you carry on bags? What's the reason for doing that? What's the reason for you checking the size of the shirt? You haven't changed that much since last visit, right? So if you think about it, the experience we currently have in showrooms like IKEA or like shopping mall, it's still a lot of friction. So each time I'm trying to buy a t-shirt in H&M, I approached checkout area, and the lady, she asked me for four digits for numbers. That's ridiculous. I want to just buy a t-shirt. I don't want to give you numbers. I mean, she asked me and she insists. So I give her a number and then she authorizes the transaction and then I can get the t-shirt. So it's ridiculous. I mean, I should just take a t-shirt and just walk away. So why it is important and why also we see more and more such innovation that is attached to our pocket, to the smartphone in our pocket, is because the smartphone penetration is really high. So in US, I think it's approximately 70-80% this year, and within 2 years will be probably like 90%. So it means that each and every person has a smartphone. So each and every person, additionally to her eyes, have supercomputer in his pocket, and that computer is connected to the world. It can connect to the server other part of the world, and finally, thanks to sensor technologies, it can also detect the presence of different objects and locations. So for those of you who are trying to create some projects here in the region, the challenge is that, of course, Europe and especially Poland is a little bit behind. So in Poland, we have approximately 20% of smartphone penetration, maybe 30% for some cities, and but it's going to be here as well. So that's why you just need to be careful whenever you try to deploy beacons because you need to understand what's the penetration for your customers. And why retail and why showrooms? Why physical world? You probably don't know that, but 95% of all the transactions, they still happen in the physical world. So the Amazon, Google, Facebook, and all the eBay and Allegro is just 5%. It's tiny. It's super tiny. So most of the sales and most of the transactions, they still happen in a physical world, the physical world full of friction. So it's a huge opportunity, and it's trillions. So that's why there will be lots of companies trying to innovate in that space. And you will see more and more innovation that is coming to your pocket. So 1 week ago, Apple on WWDC conference, they presented iOS 8, just a new version of the operating system. And part of iOS 8 is new feature, which is this kind of tiny icon here in the lock screen. And this is an icon that will bring you a contextual information about experience and interactions around you. So lots of retailers, they've been struggling with app distribution. So no one knew there is a Starbucks app that they can use to order coffee remotely. No one knew there is H&M app. No one knew there's an IKEA app, and so on, so on. So because the QR code's friction been removed, it's still a lot of friction because at the end of the day, you need to download the app. And the process is still painful for my mom or for sister. So you need to find an app in the App Store, you need to download it, you need to know it exists, you need to configure sometimes. So it's, again, but we see the major filmmakers, they trying to solve that problem. So this icon, it will appear on your lock screen each time you are in a location that supports beacons or GPS position. So basically, when you approach Starbucks, and if you have Starbucks in your apps, there will be small icon here. If you don't have Starbucks app, but you are in the Starbucks, there will be an app store. You tap, and you will see the Starbucks app to be downloaded, so you can download. So today, for iOS 8, this is just one icon, but think about it deeply. What is the reason for you as a human being to search for apps? I mean, what is the reason I walk into the office and I'm searching for the right app, the right moment? I mean, each time I'm in the bed or each time I'm in the tram, there are particular apps that I used to use. There's no reason for myself to search. So we are very slowly, with this one icon, going to the model that someday your screen basically will just respond to the objects nearby and your location. The same way the girl just knew the surroundings and objects and the distance, so your phone will mimic that as well. So you can see here's an Android app. It's called Cover. So this app is changing the icon on your screen depending on your position and your location. So each time you're at work, home, somewhere else, you will see different apps. So we can imagine, so today you have to download IKEA app in order to walk into IKEA and experience, but someday, and we hope it will not be that far from now, you will just walk into the restaurant and there will be context of a menu. You will finish your meal and you walk out, there will be a context of paying the bill. You just press one button, you will leave the restaurant, and there will be a context of doing a review. So you will give 5 stars, you'll just walk away. So that's the future, which will happen this fall. You need to remember that in 2 weeks, Google is going to present on the Google I/O conference the next update for Android. So we are looking also forward to see the innovation behind, but there's no question that, again, it's much easier for low energy, coin-sized, battery-powered beacons that you can stick to all the objects to transfer the information and the knowledge to your phone than to perform visual image recognition as human beings do at the moment. So that's all from my end. So I would love to answer your questions, and this presentation was mainly designed for you to to inspire you why it is important to start experimenting now, and why the industry will try to fill the gap between your phone and the last couple of meters, right? So people spend 80% of time indoor. GPS doesn't work indoor, and GPS is not able to understand the right context. So I give you an example, so I hope it will work. So I have a beacon in my bag, so I will try to connect to it. So as you know, Estimote beacons, they are not only about broadcasting the location, but they also have built-in temperature sensor and the accelerometer. So once I am connected to the beacon, it can also detect if the object is in motion. So I will show you in a moment. So you can see there's my screen and there's a beacon on the screen. So if I touch the bag, the beacon will move because my phone in my pocket knows exactly that I am in front of that object, and that object is moving, right? So same thing for the girl. So the phone can utilize this information. So if I'm in the retail store and if I'm trying a particular object, bike, pair of shoes, or a camera, my phone into the pocket, in the background, knows not only how long I spent next to that particular object, but if I try it, if I touch it, if I interact with that. So your phone knows that information. Now it's a question how to utilize that knowledge. If this is just the analytics to understand the store layout and how to improve it, or maybe introduce minority report style interaction showing the same pair of shoes on the screen in front of me. So again, I would love to answer any questions you have. So why don't we have a QA session now?
What happens if in a mall, let's assume there will be a lot of beacons next to each other?
Yeah, so again, as in the video I showed you with the girl, you can see that people are selective. People are scanning for objects they are interested in. And once they have the object they are interested in, they keep focusing on that particular object. So again, we believe that the technology in our pocket has to mimic that. So we don't expect that your phone will be buzzing all the time. You're in a shopping mall because there's those on the beacons. And again, all of you just need to assume that beacons, they will be absolutely everywhere. They will be super cheap, super small, and they will last forever. You just need to assume that. So in the coming months and years, there will be beacons everywhere that they are talking to your phone. And now it's a question how your phone does respond to that, right? So the girl, she didn't interact with each and every toy. She just selected one and started to engage. So Apple, for example, is recommending the interaction that you just need to explicitly express your intention to interact. So, for example, I walk into IKEA, it's full of beacons. I have a phone in the pocket. I don't need to interact. So, but there is an object I want to interact. So I take my phone, I unlock the screen, and now you see an interaction because I explicitly express my intention to interact with the object which is in close proximity. Or I just sit down on the object, so the motion sensor is working, so we will narrow the interaction only to the object I am interacting with. So it's in close proximity and it's in motion. So it's up to the developers. Definitely it's a huge challenge from the UI and interaction perspective because too much information can kill the experience. And there is also a lot of misunderstanding and misconceptions about beacons. So we've been talking to the large airlines about the new technology and especially the motion sensor, and they said, oh, it's brilliant. We will put beacons into each and every luggage so that as a passenger, when you are inside the plane and the luggage is there, you will get a notification that the luggage is in the plane. Well, I assume it's there. I would love to have a notification if it's not in the plane, right? So you see that there's lots of misconceptions and we all need to learn. So, you know, at Estimote, we have managed to build a community of more than 20,000 developers just, you know, playing and testing, and we learn a lot. That's why we are able to predict a little bit the future, because we know what they are working on and how we can help them to build even better apps. So I hope I have answered your questions. So are there any other questions?
Okay, thanks for the presentation. It was really nice. You mentioned just a little bit about the Google Glass. And I want to ask you about what do you think more about like this Google Glass, because this is this kind of alternative to what you are presenting. I think I don't know if you perceive it in the same way, because this is like another approach. It's more like really seeing these things by the video and the recognizing of this object. Of course, there are technology limits right now, like the battery usage or like the whole recognition process. But isn't it like more natural because it's based on the same base? So the site, not like the position of the object.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. This is an excellent question, and I think Google Glass is not an alternative to beacons. Is an alternative to the smartphone, right? But think deeply about it. Why you need to take a piece of glass and just talk to it or just touch it? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous as well. But this is how it is. And kind of we could expect that the future devices like Google Glass and smartwatches like Pebble, they will also be this kind of gateway between you and the physical or online world. We just don't assume they will use image recognition. They might use image recognition for some activities like detecting face or detecting very simple objects. But as I said, the image recognition is consuming power a lot. So if you would like to have portable, sexy device, not like a battery pack in your backpack, then we just don't assume people will use Google Glasses. But you are right, long term, we are looking forward to see a technology that will mimic how people interact with the physical world, and people use eyes. So all the future devices like Google Glass, they might also mimic that behavior. We just believe that at the moment, it's much easier to just extract the information because the object is talking to us. Object is broadcasting an information saying, I am HR, my price is $99, this is a link, you can buy me. So, and also it's one thing important to remember, that Google Glass might also benefit from beacons. So at Estimote, we have a lot of Google Glass developers. There's one project in San Francisco. They're working on a Google Glass application for hospitals, for doctors. So as you know, doctors they're not allowed to touch that many things because they need to wash hands for 20 minutes each time. So they developed the Google Glass application. So doctors walk into the hospital, to the room, and they immediately see contextual information about the room and patients in that room without touching anything. And that's because of integration between beacons and Google Glass, and Google Glass is supporting Bluetooth Low Energy, so it's possible. So I hope I answered the question. So again, yes, image recognition makes a lot of sense. No, it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Hi, my name is Maciej. I'm from Intel Capital. A couple of questions here. First of all, this is really big, yes? It's a huge ecosystem that you want to enter into. And the question is, where is your place, given the big tycoons like Google, Apple, Facebook, all the big names? Where will you be making money? Is it hardware, or is it ecosystem of software platforms? What will it be?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I think the answer is it's kind of complex. I'll try to address that. So first of all, you have to understand that the interaction between the phone and the beacon, which is representing a physical object or location, it's possible because you have an app. You have a compatible app. So in an IKEA example, you need to download the app. So before you walk into the IKEA, you just need to download the app. And of course, Apple and Google, they will be working. So it's kind of easier, so it's easier to download the app. So I showed you the recent innovations, and people will be downloading the apps. But there are other massively distributed apps already, right? So I believe that each and every of you in your pocket, you have Angry Birds, Facebook, and other massively distributed apps. So these apps someday might also implement some techniques to understand the signals from beacons, right? So that's the answer what Facebook will do, or what other huge companies, huge information technology companies will do. We don't know that yet, but we should expect that these companies, they want their apps to be smarter. Consumers, they're buying phones because there are apps that can help them, communicate, buy stuff, and so on. So we expect that the software companies will want to make these apps smarter and richer, and they will use signals from beacons. Answering your question, if this is a hardware or software project, well, there is a misconception about it, because technically speaking, it's a full stack software into the chip and into the silicon enclosure. So it's not a hardware project. There are no moving parts. It's just a information representation of a physical world. So there's no question that the hardware will be commoditized. So it will be super cheap, and there will be tons of different companies doing different form factors. So we are not focused on that. We are focused on the experience for the developers. So this technology is an early stage technology. So I talked the other day to Paul Graham of Y Combinator, and he said that this is like Macintosh in early 80s. So it's a great technology, but no one knows what is the killer application yet, right? So early days, Macintosh, people like nerds and geeks and developers just bought it and just did a lot of different stuff. But later on came these startups and companies. They built first spreadsheet and first word processor and first browser. And these were the apps. And some of these apps being the killer apps like mail and porn and you name it, right? So basically, we don't know what is the killer app for beacons yet, but we have tons of developers trying to figure it out. And we are trying to support them because, again, at the end of the day, it's still very complex to understand what should be the distance of the beacon, what should be the range, what should be the protocol, how to secure beacons. So if I implement beacons in IKEA, I don't want Amazon app knows about these objects, because Amazon will use this information to offer users discounts to buy online. So we need to secure it. So what if I deployed 1,000 beacons? So we have such installations, for instance, in London, large shopping mall, and how to manage thousands of beacons. There should be fleet management, there's analytics components. So as a company, we are oriented on the developers because they will figure it out, and we also support them in different software components, building like the full stack. So again, our mission and our objective is to make sure your devices you have, it might be Pebble Watch, it might be Google Glass, it might be smartphone, it might be your future car. Our objective is to make sure these devices, they know exactly where they are, what's the context, if objects are in motion, if objects are yours, if they are not yours. So our mission is to provide a context. So I hope I have answered your question.
Thanks a lot.
Hello, my name is Matt. I have one question. You're saying that you wish to support developers in this ecosystem, but at the same time you're kind of competing with them because you're selling and you're partnering directly with brands and companies. Would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, sure. This is an excellent question. Thank you for that. So our objective is to, again, make sure that the developers, they use our technology because it's super simple and because it's beautifully designed. So again, developers and startup pitching to their customers, they don't want to bring like yellow or green Raspberry Pi electronics to present to the marketing people, right? They need tools, they need beautifully designed product, and they also need rich SDK and rich demo apps so they can very quickly set up and show to their managers or the customers. And at Estimote, in order to understand what they need, we also need to talk to the final customers. We are talking to large brands. So for example, we have developed and deployed a solution for Virgin Atlantic in Heathrow, London. They built an amazing passenger experience. So you walk into the terminal and the phone knows exactly your position. So it will tell you, okay, your flight is this time, gate number 12. You have 30 minutes to walk and there is Starbucks nearby. And once you walk into the gate, your boarding pass will appear on your screen. So there's no reason to have like paper one and so on. So they are enriching the passenger experience, and we try to understand, doing a pilot, what is the tech and what is the full stack behind to make sure that this is scalable. We are not able as a company, and we don't want to close all the airlines and all the retail stores. The market is going to be huge. It's $1 trillion industry. So, but we need to understand, we cannot wait for the developers to figure it out. We just need to act as a company. We need to understand the entire experience, and we need to understand how to build a stack to take the right product decision. So again, we are extremely focused on the developers, but from the other hand, we need to interact with the customers. So I hope I answered your question. So are there any other questions? Okay, if they are not, I will be here for a moment, so feel free to reach out to me. So thank you guys. Thanks.
Thank you very much.